Hi, we're being asked to round 13,653 and 97,267 hundred thousandths to the nearest tenth. Okay, this is the nearest tenth, the 9. Here, I'm going to look up here. So that's the nearest tenth. The 7, which is in the hundredths place, tells the 9 to round up. So when the 9 rounds up, it becomes a 10, right? And everything else becomes zeros after that. But since it's after the decimal place, we just chop them off. Okay, so these are all going to get chopped off. This is going to become a 0. Well, it's going to become 10, right? But the 1 gets carried over to the 3, and that becomes a 4. Okay? So the 9 became a 10, and the 1 got carried to the 3, and it became 4. Now notice, there's no difference between this number that we have right here and if we remove the 0, except if I press this, it'll say I'm wrong. Okay, the reason for that is we're being asked to round to the nearest tenth, so we need to leave a number in the tenth place. Okay, and this is, you know, because of the scientific equipment I was telling you about in class. And if you weren't there for that, ask me about it, I'll explain it. It's fascinating stuff. Anyhow, there we go. So I got it right, just took too long. Alright, so let's round this number to the nearest 10,000th. So here is the nearest 1000th, 10,000th is right there. So, right here. So the number before it is the 100,000th place, and it tells the 1 to round up to a 2, and everything else after that gets chopped off. Okay, round to the nearest 10th. This is the nearest 10th. The 7 tells the 9 to round up to a 10. So this becomes a 0. We carry the 1 over, and that becomes a 1. Okay, so it's easy as that. Alright, round to the nearest 10th. This is the nearest 10th. The one before it is a 0, so if it's 5 or higher, we round up. If it's 4 or lower, we round down. So this is definitely lower, so we're rounding down. This becomes a 0. Everything else after becomes zeros, but we chop them off. Okay? Alright, round to the nearest, that says 100,000th. So just move that so you can see that 100,000th. So that's 1000th, 10,000, 100,000th. So the 7 is going to tell the 6 to round up, and that's going to become a 7. Okay, that's all there is to it. Alright, so in short, all you have to do is go to the place we're being asked to round to, which is the nearest 1000th. This is the 1000th. We look at the place just before it, okay, just to the right. In this case, it's 10,000th place, and if it's 5 or higher, we round the number that we're looking at, the 8 in this course, up. In this case, up. If it's 4 or lower, we round down. So the 8 would stay 8, and everything else after would become 0. Okay, so we leave the 8 alone, and everything else would become 0. But in this case, the 9 is higher than 5, okay, because it's 5 or higher. It's higher than 4, I guess. Then this 8 gets rounded up to a 9. And there we go. And that's how you round. Okay, round to the nearest hundredth. We find the hundredth. It's right here. And the place before it, the 1000th, is a 4. Okay, I don't care that the one before that is a 9. Okay, all I care about is this 4. And this 4, it's less than 5, so it tells us to leave the 0 alone. Everything else after becomes zeros. Okay, and the last place that we always show is a place we're being asked to round to. We're being asked to round to the nearest hundredth, so we have to put, at the very least, we have to have a 0 in the hundredth place. Okay? Alright, round to the nearest tenth. The 0 is a tenth. The 8 tells the 0 to round up to a 1, so that becomes a 1. Everything else after becomes zeros. Okay, but we don't write them because we only write up to the last decimal place that we're rounding to when it's a decimal. Round this number to the nearest hundredth. Okay, hundredth, 5 is the hundredth. So we look at the 1000th. The 9 tells the 5 to round up to a 6, and everything else after gets chopped off. Okay, to the nearest tenth. The 5 is nearest tenth. The 1 tells it to round down, so everything else gets chopped off. So the 5 stays, everything else gets chopped. The nearest hundredth. The 6 is nearest hundredth. The 3 tells us to round down, so we just chop that off. And to the nearest hundredth again. The 1 tells it to stay. The nearest 1000th. The 2 tells the 1000th to stay the way it is. Okay, the nearest 1000th. Yeah, the 4 tells it. Anyways, we're running out of time. Have a good day.